Greetings, detectives. Mrs. McKay here, and today we're going to talk about congruent triangles. Congruent triangles. And let's go ahead and fill in our learning target. I can determine if triangles are congruent, so write the word congruent. Using, and we're going to go ahead and put in some initials. We'll go ahead and just put them in the order that I have them on this page. S, 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 A, S, that's an S, not a 5, and A, S, A. All right, I can determine if triangles are congruent using SSS, which stands for side, 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 SAS, which is side, angle, side, and ASA, which stands for angle, side, angle. Now, before we go any further, let's do a little bit of just getting some vocabulary out of the way. Congruent. The word congruent is a word that we use when we talk about two figures or lines or angles being exactly the same. So when we want to talk about a congruent triangle means that the sides and angles are all equal measures, okay? So that means an angle on one triangle is the exact same measurement as an angle on the other triangle, and the other two are exact same measurements as their corresponding ones. And we use a word called corresponding, which just means we can match them up, okay? Are all equal measures. That should be an E and that should be an S, are all equal measures. So congruent means that the sides and the angles are all equal measures, okay? And then we're going to also talk a little bit about similar triangles. And similar is almost congruent but not quite, okay? Similar means that the angles are equal, but not necessarily the sides, okay? Not necessarily the sides. And the sides are proportional. And we're not going to spend too much time talking about this, but I just want to give you a little bit of an explanation. So the angles are equal, but the sides are proportional. They don't have to be the exact same. So I could have, here I have a triangle, and here I have another triangle. And the angles are the same, but the sides are not. This side is 1 and this is 1, and we'll say that this is the square root of 2. Well, this side is 2 and this side is 2 and this side is 2, right? Because 2 squared, square root of 8. Square root of 8, okay? So what that means is that I can take one side and make a fraction 1/2, and if I do take another side and take its corresponding side, it's going to be the same fraction 1/2. And actually the square root of 2 over the square root of 8 is also, I'll show you up here, square root of 2 over the square root of 8. Well, the square root of 8 is really the square root of 2 times the square root of 4. And then when I cancel those two out, I get 1 over the square root of 4. Well, the square root of 4 is just equal to 2, so it's 1/2. So you can see that they are proportional. They are all the same. The proportions are the same, okay? So that's what similar means. All right, now there's some important symbols that we use. Now, one thing that we use is we use this little symbol to represent a triangle, okay? And when we say the 3 points, so we would say triangle A, B, C, okay? And then if we want to say that it is congruent, we'd use an equal sign with a little squiggly on top. I'm going to make my thing a little bit. So let me do that again. A triangle A, B, C is congruent. So it's a equal sign with a little squiggly. It's called a tilde on top. And we would say that it's congruent to angle or triangle D, E, F. And what that means is that angle A is equal to angle D, angle B and angle E are the same measurement, angle C and angle F are the same measurement, and let's see if I do it like this, and I say this one's D, E, F. I say this is A, B, C, D, E, F. We always write them in the same order as their equal measurements. So that means AB has to be equal to DE, and BC has to be equal to EF, and AC is equal to DF. All right? So we use this little thing that for congruence. We use just the little tilde to mean similar, okay? And then one other thing that I've shown a little bit of is we use markings, little tick marks. So if we want to say that AB is congruent to DE, then we put one little hashtag mark to show on both of them that this line segment, this side, is this congruent or the same measurement as this side. And then because our sides aren't the same length, we would say that AC is, we put two hashtag marks or little tick marks, and then BC, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like that, so that we say that the sides, so this side is equal to this side's equal to this side. Now we also do it with our angles, and I did not make my angles, my triangles big enough, but we do the same thing with angles. We put a little arc measuring the angle. So angle B is equal to angle C, or angle E, angle A, and now we're going to put two little arcs is equal to angle D, and then we would put 3 on the C and the F. It's just very small so you can't see it, all right? So we use little tick marks for equal sides, and we use little arcs, so equal sides. We use the arcs for equal angles. All right? Okay, let's get started. Now, another thing that we say when when two triangles are congruent, is we actually say that we can use translations and other transformations. We can use a translation, a rotation, a reflection, and we can actually match the two triangles together. We can match the two triangles together. But we're not, and so that's what, that one will lay on top of the other and they'll be exactly the same. But what we're going to do today is we're going to use these markings to identify things that are the same length. So let's do this. Let me change this back. And let me change this back to 2. And I'm going to go ahead and label, and I want you to as well, to label this A, B, and C. And then we'll label this D, E, and F. All right? Now, let's talk a little bit about one way that we can know two triangles are equal or congruent. The way that we can do that is if their corresponding sides are congruent or equal. Okay, so if AB, well, maybe I should make it bigger. If AB is equal to DE, then I have two corresponding sides that are equal, okay, or congruent. And then if AC is congruent to DF, I do it that way. So that means that this line segment, AC, is congruent to this line segment, DF. And then I'll say that BC is congruent to EF. All right? So if this triangle ABC has the same length sides as EDF, then these two triangles are congruent. And we write it like this: A, B, C, so put a little triangle in front of it. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle. We have to match them up. So DE is going to match with AB. So I'm going to write it D, E, F. So we have to make sure that we do the exact same order so that our matching sides or matching points match up, all right? So if we see that we have a triangle and we know that it has another triangle with the same length of sides as it does, then we can say that the two triangles are congruent, all right? Now, let's take a look at side angle side. Side angle side says that if you have a side that's equal to another side, let's go ahead and call this, let's see, we said F, so we'll say this is G, H, I, and we'll have this one be J, K, L. Okay, so we have GH is congruent to JK. All right, so I'm actually going to write that. I'm going to write GH, line segment or side GH, is congruent to line segment JK. Okay, and let's go ahead and say that HI is congruent to LK. So HI is congruent to line segment LK. And then one last thing is there is an angle that is also equal, and it's this one and this one. So what I want you to notice is that it's a side, two sides with an angle in between them. Two sides and an angle in between them. That's why we call it side angle side. It has to be just like that. Two sides with the angle in between. We couldn't pick this angle over here because then the angle wouldn't be in between the two sides. So now we're going to say angle H is congruent to angle K. So when we have two sides and an angle, and the angle is in between the two sides, we can say that this triangle, so we'll say triangle GHK is congruent to triangle, and we have to do it in the same order, match them up. So let's see, if H and K were our equal angles, then we have to look for, let's go ahead and start, we'll say GHK is this one up here, which ends up being this one over here, triangle J, and then we came down to H, so we'll go to K and L. Side, angle, side. All right? Now, angle, side, angle is another one. Angle, side, angle. So that means that I have two angles that are equal, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to be, we'll say it's this one and this one. So this one we'll say is equal to this one, and this one is equal to this one. And if we have a side in between them that is equal, then using angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle, we can say that these two triangles are congruent. Now, I didn't give them letters, so let's see, where did we leave off? L, so we'll do M, N, O, and let's see, M and this one are going to be the same, Q, and then R and S. All right, so we're going to say that our angle M, should make that be pink, angle M is congruent to angle Q, and then let's do our side this time. Side MN is congruent to side QR, and angle R is congruent to angle N. And because we have an angle, a side, and an angle, we can say that this is congruent. So we can say triangle MNO is congruent to triangle QRS. And it's important that we always put them in the order of their matching or their corresponding angles and sides, all right? Now, there's one other thing that we can say about this. Suppose that we didn't know that, let me use a different color. Suppose that we didn't know that Q and, or that RQ and MN, or QR and MN were congruent. Suppose we said that it was these two that were congruent, and we didn't know that this one was, all right? We didn't know that this one was, and we were looking at angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side. Well, can we say that if we have two angles and one side that the triangles are congruent? Well, we can, and the reason is because we can determine that because we know that this angle is equal to this angle and this angle is equal to this angle, we can know that these two angles are also congruent. They're also congruent. Well, how can we know that? Well, we can know that because we know the total amount. If we added up all of the angles inside a triangle, we know that it equals 180 degrees. So if we know what two of them are, we subtract those two from 180 degrees, and that tells us what our third one is. And that's going to be the same thing over here. It's 180 degrees, and so they're going to obviously, absolutely be the same angle. So that means then that we now have angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle. So if we know two angles are the same, are congruent with two angles on another triangle, and we know one of the sides, it doesn't matter which one, then we can use the angle, side, angle because we actually know that all three of the angles are congruent. We know that all three of the angles are congruent. So we know then because all three are congruent, we're going to have a side in between two congruent angles. We're going to end up with this ASA. Okay? So that's just a little side note. Now, the final thing though is, What about angle, angle, angle? Does that mean that we will have congruent triangles if all three angles are congruent? So what if we have this one is equal to this one, and this one is equal to this one, and this one is congruent to this one? Do we have congruent triangles? Well, I think you can tell just by looking at it that no, we don't. We don't have congruent triangles. What we actually have is we have similar triangles. Similar triangles have the same measurement of angles, but their side lengths are not equal, but they are proportional, okay? So this is actually, we'll call this one, let's see, we got 2S, so we'll say this is TUV, and this is WXY, and we'll say that triangle TUV is similar to WXY. That should be a triangle in front of that. Okay? So angle, angle, angle does not prove congruence, but it does prove similarity. Okay? So it means that they're similar. So there are really three things that we've learned that will determine a triangle is congruent. If all three sides are congruent, if two sides and an angle are congruent, and the angle is in between the two sides, and if you have two angles and one side. If you have two angles and one side, it doesn't matter if the side is in between or not, you will have congruent triangles. All right? Let's do a little bit of practice. See how you can do on that. Let's take a look at this first one. I'm going to give you some information, and then you tell me if they are congruent or not congruent, and which rule you used, whether it's side, 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 angle, or angle, side, angle. So I'm going to pause this for just a minute so that I can add all of my notations on, and then we'll be able to get started. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at these practice ones. I've got this triangle, ABC, and I want to know if this triangle over here, DEF, if these two are congruent or not. So you tell me, is triangle ABC congruent to triangle DEF? And if so, why? Well, you are right. It is congruent. And it is because of side, angle, side. Okay, now let's take a look at these next two. Here we have CBD, and you tell me if this triangle over here is congruent to it, and what would be the corresponding point. So I'm going to have you actually first tell me if they're congruent. And then I want you to tell me if they are congruent, which they are. So we'll say yes, they are congruent. But what is the correct order of the letters? What is the correct order of the letters? Well, we need to start, if we did C to B, then we need to do, looks to me like C to B to D. So we need to go S to R to Q, right? Because we went C, B, D. So C and B were the the side that had 2 ticks, and BD was the side that had 1 tick, so we need to follow the same order, S to R to Q. So we'll say S, R, Q. Now, if you did R, Q, R, S, well, you just have to make sure that you're always putting corresponding angles next to each other, okay? So you got to put them in the exact same order. And this was, which proof was this? Side, side, side. Good. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Here we have triangle HIJ, HIJ. And then we've got this triangle over here. And can you tell me if they are congruent or not? You're correct. They are not congruent. They are not congruent. And the reason why is because there's no equal sides. We don't know anything about the sides. All we know is that it's angle, angle, angle. And all that tells us is that they are similar. They are similar. And we can write these in the correct order. We can say angle HIJ is similar to which letter goes first? Triangle HIJ is similar to triangle. H is the second, has 2, so we got to find the one that has 2, so M. Then we go up to the angle with the 3 hashtags, so we do N, and then down to the 1, so MNL. So triangle HIJ, it's not congruent, but it is similar to triangle MNL. Last one. We've got 2 triangles here, 2 triangles, and let's start with this one, RED, triangle RED. And tell me, is it congruent to this triangle over here that has a CAT? Is it congruent to it? Yes, it is. It is congruent. And why is it congruent? Angle, side, angle. Good. And what would be the corresponding letters that we would put that correspond to RED? A, C, T. Good job. All right. That's congruent triangles. We're going to spend some time in class exploring congruent triangles and seeing if we can disprove these. We didn't do any of the actual proving or looking at it. I just taught you SSS, SAS, and ASA, and you're going to be able to use those. But we haven't really spent any time really examining and exploring why that's true. We'll do some of that in class. It's a little hard to do it when you're doing a video. So we'll spend time in class working on that. But that's all I have for Clue 6-6. Make sure that you write yourself a key idea down at the bottom, and I'll see you in class.